All right, we are live, and today we will be discussing a slightly less obscure than usual film. It's the third installment in our series on political satire films. The first one was The President's Analyst. The last one was Network, and today we will be discussing Wag the Dog from 1997, which was produced and directed by Barry Levinson, and starring Dustin Hoffman and Robert De Niro, and written by David Mamet, the great. Mamet the Great.
And also starring the late Anne H.
And
recently late Anne H.
Yeah, rest in peace.
Rest in peace.
All right, so
who's starting first?
I mean, I'll start. So just to give a little background on the film, and this film is, I actually don't remember if I saw it back in the day when it came out, but I knew it, but I had these kind of like memories of it, but I saw it recently. I think the first time I really saw it was relatively recently, like a couple of years ago, when I was going down the David Mamet rabbit hole. And yeah, I mean, it's a remarkable film on a lot of levels. It doesn't quite have the same kind of epic quality to it that Network does, although there are parallels in some ways. I mean, Network deals with news networks. This deals with the manipulation of the media to such an extreme degree that like to where people are believing that like wars are happening that aren't actually happening. But it was a very prescient film because whether by coincidence or by design, the Clinton administration. Well, so in this film, the idea is that the president is about to go battle for re-election in 11 days, and there's a sex scandal with a girl or a child. And,
in the Oval Office.
Yeah, and they bring in their deep state fixers to come in and concoct a scheme to distract from it and to turn the president and this administration into a heroic administration and make everybody forget about the other thing. And it goes into all of the silly elements of like manipulation. They actually hire a really vain film producer in Dustin played by Dustin Hoffman, to orchestrate, to produce a fake war, to produce all these different kind of sort of, supporting little storylines in the media, and for the people to be completely distracted by what's going on and shape and completely push their minds in a different direction, away from the scandal at hand. And what's kind of ironic is that, like I was going to say before, whether this was by coincidence or by design, Bill Clinton immediately, like in the aftermath of this film, had a sex scandal in the Oval Office, and then proceeded to start a war. Where was the first one? Nigeria or something? They started bombing somewhere, but then
they started bombing campaign in Iraq, and then they went to Somalia,
Iraq, and then Somalia, and then finally, while he was being impeached, exactly. I can't think today. While he was being impeached, that we went to war with Yugoslavia, right?
I think we had already been at war with Yugoslavia.
Okay, but it was ongoing.
But it was an ongoing, yeah.
So it was like people were calling it in the media. People were describing it as a Wag the Dog type of event, and life imitating art.
Yeah. Now, is this when the term?
Right?
Is this when that term "Wag the Dog" became popular?
Yes.
Okay.
Exactly.
So was it used prior? I didn't do as much research on the film, but has it been used prior to this film, or was it invented from the film?
No, it's an older sort of. I looked it up, and I can't really find the date that it was sort of that it comes from, but it seems, my guess is it's somewhere like around maybe late 19th century British. It's like a British thing. There's sort of like it's kind of a poem. Like in the beginning of the film, it says, like, do you remember what it says exactly?
They talk about which is smarter, the tail or the dog, and the answer is the dog.
Yeah, which is smarter, the tail or the dog? The dog is smarter because if the tail was smarter, the tail would be wagging the dog. And so and then it became like an expression for a seemingly smaller, less significant entity, whether that be a government agency or a group of people or a company that seems to be like less significant, but actually more powerful or controlling a seemingly larger institution.
Yeah.
So it's like one of those expressions. So yeah, good fun. And I mean, I kind of just wanted to give the overview for the audience if they haven't seen it. And if you are listening and you want to join in and the conversation, the link is in the description to join our StreamYard. What about you, Judy? What do you think? What do you got to say about this?
Oh, so much and nothing at all at the same time.
It's exactly the movie.
That's what I'm good for. Okay, so I thought the film was well done, well conceived, well structured, fantastic actors. I wasn't quite thrilled with the casting, though, to be honest.
You didn't like Willie Nelson?
No, I didn't say. I'm talking about the two leads.
Oh, okay.
I was like, I'm not sure if I'm buying it, but okay. Loved Woody Harrelson and his little cameo pseudo bit role. He just added that like perfect little comedic twist as it got sillier and sillier. Now, for me, as a person who reads a lot of news, also I went to school for broadcasting, so I've been saying that there's fake news since I went to school for it and said I would never do it. I was just going to do Hollywood instead, or try to Hollywood instead. I was just like, of course, like, and then I just kept thinking of today, and I was like, yeah, I feel like I'm watching like what goes on, and I'm just like, I don't know, is it real or is it not? And yet at the same time, I was a little bit bored, to be honest. It was slow. There was no big climactic moments. It was a lot of people talking. I discovered that when my daughter said, I want to watch that movie Wag the Dog, because my husband and I were talking about it over breakfast. And my thing was, honey, you would not want to watch it. It was basically just grown-ups talking to each other. So, not to knock the film. So there's parts of it that I liked, but I also just was like, oh, I'm just so disenchanted with the state of politics and media and Hollywood right now that I'm like, I feel like it's just like, it's become a little bit more real.
Not only has it become more real, but it's also
in our face.
Desensitized to it. They don't even try to hide it anymore.
Yeah, you could say that. It's sort of like they're just laughing. I feel like now they're just like in that room laughing at us.
Sure. But the reason I get what you're saying. The only place I would for me, this was just a series of like really witty, sardonic banter, almost sticking it back to the man. And which I think David Mamet does really well. And I actually loved the performances of De Niro and Dustin Hoffman. I thought they were like the odd couple. I mean, but it is, I think for most people, because I love the dialogue so much, it doesn't bore me, but I can understand most people being kind of like bored with it. And it doesn't have the climaxes that. So it doesn't really have a climax in the sense that, like, in terms of a normal story arc, and the climax is really the very end. That's David Mamet's style. David Mamet doesn't do necessarily the like build up to here and then big boom and then like the debriefing. It's sort of like it just goes up and the tension just goes up and up and up, and then maybe you get a little relaxation and then boom at the very end, like the guy loses his mind. Dustin Hoffman's character loses his mind. His ego completely takes over him. And he's like, I'm going to tell the world that I did this. How dare those guys take credit for winning the election for that guy? And Robert De Niro's like, you can't do that. What do you do, an ambassadorship? Just tell me, what do you want? Is it money? He's like, I don't want
once you're in, you're in.
What?
Or they're going to, once you're in, you're in.
Yeah.
Or they're going to, suicide you.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. No, and I wouldn't say that again, it's like the performances were all fantastic. It's just there was a part of me that I was just like, I just don't know if I buy them each in those roles. That's all. Like, I don't, if I were to cast that film, I don't think I would put them. And then I was like, well, I wonder if I would switch them and have like De Niro as the quirky film producer, but that wouldn't work either.
No.
So
Well,
again, it's just that might be a preference for me.
Yeah.
Who would I cast?
Who would you have cast in the lead?
I'd have to think about. I need a moment to think about that. And the other thing too is I have to say, like, I'm totally biased just because, like, I literally like have had a dislike for the news and broadcasting. So watching it, I was just like, oh, you know. So I'm definitely biased.
Yeah,
in this
and
regard.
Network would have killed you then.
I've seen Network. Yeah,
Okay.
it's just I just remember being in school and being like arguing with people like, that's not what happened though. They're like, but that's how you write it. And I'm like, that's not the truth though. They're like, no, because it needs to be a story. And I was like, you're just lying to people. And they're like, we're not lying. We're just telling a story. And I'm like, you're lying. I'm just going to make movies. And I was like, I threw my pen down and that was it. That was my climactic moment in broadcasting school. Anyway,
you were in broadcasting school.
I did. I did. I went to school for the news, and my final thesis was about how the news portrayed women in politics.
Okay.
So I think this was pre Hilary Clinton, before she was running. This was back. I was, I'll date myself. I was in school in the early 2000s. So Hilary was actually senator at that time. But anyway, back to you guys though. But it was funny. It was definitely clever. And I was talking to someone earlier and they said, if you look at, because I described the film as, I was like, it was a little boring for me. Again, because I'm biased. But they were commenting how films made prior to the last probably 10 years can all sometimes be boring for people because the way that they've sort of sped up filmmaking and editing and flashiness and sound, that anybody could look at any old film and be bored by it. And at first I thought, yes, but then I thought not necessarily, because there's other films that I felt were quicker, more engaging, and we've covered some of them. But I thought, what do you guys think about that? About films that, like, how would Wag the Dog be perceived or filmed and created if it were created today?
I think it'd be a flashier film. I think that sequence, the war sequence, would be with changing the chips.
And they'd have have much better CGI. And just be easier to do. But also, there was something like, this was masterfully shot, and the music was done by Mark Knopfler, I believe.
Of Dire Straits.
And it's strange. It's almost kind of like the music almost kind of doesn't fit it's so cheerful and sort of weird.
Yeah.
And like, but I like that about it. It's incongruous. Yes. And the scene where they're filming the girl with the cat, played by
Kirsten
Dunst, a very young Kirsten Dunst. All those shots and cuts and like where she's going off talking to, like, it's actually there is something kind of fast about it. You have multiple conversations almost happening at the same time, and like she goes off with Robert De Niro, kind of asking him, "So can I put this on my resume?" And he's like, "No, blah, blah. And then you can imagine, like, you're imagining the conversation that they're going to continue to have. He's going to explain to her why, while like the next thing is going on. I mean, and they're trying to give you like it's a pretty good shot of what it feels like to be on a set.
Yeah.
With all these people moving in different directions. And I thought that was kind of cool, having that like movie set within a movie kind of feel to it. But there's little details like that. I like about it.
It also made me wonder too, like, how would you be able to pull something of that grand scale off? Like, would that be realistic? No. And then the other thing compared to being made in 1997 versus today is that, like, you wouldn't be able to pull it off the way that they did because of the social media, the
Yeah,
cameras, all
Twitter
that
and-
stuff, like the research.
Right.
Like they just wouldn't be able to do it. Like having someone who was in a military prison and saying that he was on the battlefield, like, there's Google now. But like, would they? I don't know.
Well, okay, let's put it another way. They always find ways to pull things off in new ways. Like they're constantly innovating all the time, right?
Yeah.
The times are changing. They change with the times. It's just the game changes a little bit. It's maybe, I don't know, maybe it's more interesting now. Maybe it's less interesting. But like, I think to feed the public and see, most people that actually get news and know what, like, the problem that I think most people have when it comes to like reality is that they buy into some kind of a bias. Like most people don't want to know what's actually going on. Like
Yeah.
they're not interested in it. Like they don't even care to begin with. So countries and nations do what they need to do. And the way the world works is like you don't have, there's no like one guy like pulling all the strings, and it's a series of interests. It's a sequence. There's sequences of like imperatives and constraints, as George Friedman would say, that all nations are bound by. And so like the idea that the thing is, like, even if something like of this nature takes place from time to time, it takes place like in a short period of time to deal with a specific crisis, but it's not normal business as usual. Like this is something. This took place over the course of a few days in the movie.
11 days.
What?
11 days or
Okay.
12. Yeah.
Right, 11 days, because it was 11 days out from the election.
Yeah.
Exactly. So I mean, we're talking about like, games here and games there, and people are always playing games, and people will continue to play games as much as they can. But everyone is a lot more constrained than most people think. It's like people aren't just going out and doing whatever they want. There's a lot of limitations. The world is a complicated place, and I think most people want to reduce it down to like a cartoon. And I guess maybe sometimes it can be, but I don't think that's I don't think that's accurate. And also, people aren't that smart,
for the most part.
Individual people are like constantly making mistakes all the time. So you have big, powerful systems that eventually work, but they bumble their way through working.
Yeah.
They have like, plan A, plan B, plan C. It's never like some smooth, perfectly well laid plan. Nothing works like that. Everything is complicated. Everything requires a lot of trial and error. And we know that from our everyday life, but we assume that it's different for those guys up there. Like they're so much smarter than everybody else.
Yeah. Well, it's the same.
People.
It's the same thing for film sets too. I mean,
Exactly,
how many film sets have you been on? And they're like, oh no, like what they beautifully did. And these are the moments that I actually did love about the movie, is like the details about talking about the cat or the dog.
Yeah.
And like showing the pictures. Like there was a lot of, and then the dog with the coffin. Like I loved those types of moments, with the Albanian girl and the grandmother, and they're like the coat, that's like just the little subtle things. But it kind of is like that on set too, because, you could have it like the actor didn't turn the right way, or like the gaffers in the shot, or, like there's all these things that happen on set, and then it becomes like this puzzle of like, oh shoot, that one person messed up, the other people have to sort of like try and come in. And so it is like,
exactly.
it's in every situation, and there is, I guess, the parallel between the two.
Yeah, that's why that scene is so powerful, because it's sort of like a film within it's like a film within a film, and it's kind of like a microcosm of the whole operation. And and even in the film, which basically kind of proves my point, which I guess speaks well about the honesty of the story. It's like they're planning this big war, and then the war is going to win the re-election. But then the war, they don't have control. All these other agencies have their interests, and they end the war diplomatically. And it's like, and now Dustin Hoffman's got to, well, what do I do now? Okay, I guess we left a guy behind enemy lines. We got to go get that guy. What guy? There is no guy behind enemy lines. No, there isn't. We're going to make the guy. Then they get the guy, and then he's like some crazy criminal, and then they've got to come up with, it's like that's what they get. And then they end up in a plane crash, and the guy and the criminal ends up being shot by some like
I think he was trying to assault the wife.
Yeah, he was assaulting the wife of or the
Of
daughter
I
of the
yeah.
store owner, and they kill him. And so now, okay, no, this is and Dustin was like, no, you don't understand. This is perfect. We can use this. This is great. And
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, it's just you make and it's actually too on a creative note for anyone who's well, we're all creative, but when you have any option, you're actually and Seth could speak to this too. When you have any options in front of you, it's actually harder to be creative. When you're given a box to fill and parameters and like, okay, you need to work within these confines of the situation, that's where like the creativity thrives because your brain just starts like putting stuff together and like ideas start flying. But when it's like, oh well, anything can go, it's like, well, it's like so much you can't even,
Yeah,
decide. But
you need a space and you need tools
mhm.
and limitations.
Yeah.
The deadline does wonders for creativity
Mhm.
and
Oh yeah.
a budget also.
Mhm.
You'll see like movies. I'm sure people can figure out which ones where they have a set budget for the first one, and it makes so much money that they give them
Mhm.
an unlimited budget for the second or third one, and
right.
they become duller and brighter and more deep, but it doesn't have that oomph that
Yeah.
the original had because
Yeah.
the original had like this vision of being
Mhm.
like one thing. Um, so the whole
Mhm.
franchise movies sometimes just burn
Yeah.
out because of that.
Yeah. So what are your thoughts, Seth?
My thoughts are well, I want to talk about the level of work in the actors. This is a period where Robert De Niro started to do funny
Mhm.
and started to realize that he didn't have to fill 9 or more notebooks. Now I
Mm.
love Robert De Niro even when he's just breathing. Like I don't have
Mhm.
a problem with the guy. I don't have a problem with his politics. I don't. I always separate the artist from his work. Like I
Mhm.
love Robert De Niro, whatever he wants to do. This is one of those things where you watch Robert De Niro breathe, and he has made some choices, and it's enough for this
Mhm.
character. It actually works, but because you wonder how he can do these things. Like presumably this character has no family, or if he
Mhm.
does, he's so distant from. Like there's certain things that I'm like, okay, but then Dustin Hoffman, and I remember reading this in '97, is doing a combination between an imitation of Robert Evans,
Okay.
which he does a full Robert Evans imitation at the end of The Kid Stays in the Picture. So you can see him do
Mhm.
a full one. And his father, he did his father for Death of the Salesman. So if you want to see him go full into his father, it's in Death of the Salesman. So you
Okay.
combine these two imitations and you have him doing his father crossed with Robert Evans.
Mm.
It's an interesting, eccentric character, and you
Mhm.
can clearly see he's having a fun time
Mhm.
rolling with this, and he's interesting. What's also interesting about this movie is Anne Heche has said this was when she was full blown crazy. Like
Mm.
she would do these scenes with them and hold everything together and then go into a trailer and be talking to aliens from another dimension. Like if she has a book called Call Me Crazy, and
Hmm.
she explained that this was a time when she was just holding it together when she was working and then just speaking in tongues, like out of it. And if you watch the
Mm.
movie, you never know that she is really unstable and coming loose in her
Mm.
own world. So you have these three people, and they're playing with each other uh, very, very well. I remember when I saw this movie in '97, really loving it and thinking it was a very important film, and it said something. And I have to say that this time I was like, yeah, Wag the Dog, yeah, clever David Mamet language, haha. And I like it, but I'm not.
It's not as deep
It's not as
as
deep
you
as I
think it
used
is
to
the
think it
first
was.
time you see it.
Whereas
Yeah.
Network, I thought was really
Yeah.
about something.
Yeah, no, Network is Network's a lot more of a
there's a fall of
profound-
humanity.
It's got almost like a biblical sort of nature to it.
You know, like I don't ask who these people represent
Right.
when I watch Wag the Dog. Whereas the network, I kind of ask what's going on.
Mhm.
There's a shallowness, even in like the scene where
Mhm.
the whole plan can be destroyed by the CIA and William Macy is there.
Mhm.
It's like a cute little scene, and then it works its way out. And then,
But that's why I
Yeah.
think it's, if you take it, like if you go into this movie taking it seriously, because it is considered a comedic drama.
Yeah.
If I think of it as a serious film, I'm like, it's boring.
yeah,
But if I think about it like a complete comedy, which is what I really believe it is,
Yeah, I
and
agree.
I think it's a sarcastic comedy. It's like, it's the same thing with, like, I bring up Kafka a lot because I think that he actually invented a new genre of narrative. The term Kafkaesque, you know, he created a new style of storytelling, which is like almost deadpan. You
Mhm.
know, it's like, I'm super serious. Like
Mhm.
I'm super serious. Like he woke up this morning as a cockroach, like for real. You
Mhm.
know what I mean? And like this whole kind of just the absurd, like the crazy person that we just got from the military prison to be the actor to play the war hero. Well, he's on the ground because we just crashed the plane. Like, it's so absurd. The film is so absolutely absurd that if you're actually like taking it seriously, I don't think you're going to have any fun. But if you see like how absolutely ridiculous and much it's just making fun of shit, then I think it's a little bit less boring, so to speak. But
Mhm.
but I like that deadpan delivery. That I think David Mamet actually, he's a great comedic writer. I wish he would write more comedies. Like, I'd like to see more
have you
films.
seen State and Maine?
State and Maine.
Yeah, State and Maine.
Did he direct that or just
He
wrote it?
directed and wrote that.
You sure he wrote? You sure he did both?
He did both on State and Maine. Yeah,
Okay.
I know.
No, I haven't seen it yet.
Because his wife is in it, and if his wife is in it,
No, but the first film that he both wrote and directed was whatchamacallit?
Spanish Prisoner.
No, that's later.
Oh no, was it based off of a play?
Which one? Let me just look him up real quick.
Yeah, no, I was reading about it last night. Well, he wrote Glengarry Glen Ross.
Yeah, exactly. That's
But
like his biggest hit, and that one's funny too. Like, to me, that's a comedy.
yes,
Like,
no,
through and
he's great with characters and with dialogue.
yeah.
He's very witty.
He doesn't like feeling that much though. That's what I get.
No, now Seth, you might know this. Is he the director that is the one who's like, just say the line as I wrote it? Don't
Yes.
improvise.
Yeah.
Don't add a word.
That's why you have these funky scenes where like one character is like, let's go, huh? Or like, what was the example I was using?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
he repeats
Let's
line.
go. Let's go. Let's go. Yeah.
No, his first film was The Postman Always Rings Twice.
That was his first film.
Oh wait, no, he didn't direct it. He wrote it.
The first film that he directed and wrote was House of Games.
Okay.
Yes,
And,
correct.
what was the film that you said?
State and Maine.
He didn't direct that.
He didn't direct
I
that.
don't think so. He didn't.
Yes, he did.
direct-
No, he directed and wrote it. 2000.
Oh, he did. You're right.
He
Yeah,
did
State
Lake
Maine,
Boat that year and did
But that was
not
much later.
direct it.
This is
Yeah.
2000.
Yeah, but that's comedy.
That's a comedy.
That's a comedy about Hollywood and how it takes over
That's
a
right.
local town.
Oh, that's right. I heard good things about it.
It's probably one of the most kind of sticks the finger up at like Hollywood, but there's a truth to it of just like, your town doesn't matter. We matter. Our movie matters.
Yeah.
We will lie and cheat and steal to make you realize how important.
Now, is he
Our
also
movie
the
is.
director, Seth, that said, and I don't, forgive me if I'm like putting something in his mouth that he didn't say, something about like, there's nothing special about actors, like just take anybody and have them say my lines. Is that him?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
That's an exaggeration.
That's an exaggeration.
Okay, yeah.
Definitely a guy who chooses in his ensemble William H. Macy.
Exactly. The
um,
people he
like,
works with, Philip Seymour
he-
Hoffman.
See, when you have such virtuosic actors, then you can afford to say that. You know what I
Okay,
mean?
no, that's what I was
Like,
thinking. When you have because even and Seth would agree. Sorry, I keep bringing you in, but Seth, when you have a good actor,
Yeah.
they literally can just like stand there and like anything they do is good because they're just like a good actor. And so even an actor like having a bad, like crappy acting moment is still like good.
Yeah.
So they could perceivably just like stand there and give nothing to the line and
Well,
it's like still pretty good.
David Mamet has a book called True and False.
Okay.
He basically rips apart every method. And on it, it says, I disagree with every aspect of every opinion in this book. Mr. Mamet is a genius. It must be read. Alec Baldwin. That's what's written on the book.
but other actors, like others really amazing actors, praised it. So
Yeah, but
listen, but that's the thing about acting. You don't. There are many ways to get from point A to point B. There's many different styles of approaching things. Just like you would with a musical instrument. I mean, obviously technique is technique, but there are different approaches. Not everybody has to do things a certain way. But the reality is, like, I think there is a lot of truth to what he says. If you're a good actor and you understand the art, you don't necessarily have to do that much. You can just read the lines and let it,
but
allow impulse,
to
take over.
But I think that the people who do the best work in his scripts are tend to not be using his method, with the exception of William H. Macy, who teaches his method at the Atlantic Theater School.
Well, but it seems to work.
No, it works for him. No, it does. But I mean, if you look at like Philip Seymour Hoffman or Alec Baldwin or Al Pacino, like most of the people who go Gary Glenn Ross are not doing his thing.
Wait, I'm sorry. Is William H. Macy teaching method?
Mamet's method.
Mamet's method.
Oh, Mamet's method. Okay. All right.
Mamet's
Sorry, I thought you were saying method.
No, Mamet's method. The Mamet
Okay.
method.
What is
I
Mamet's
learned the
method?
Mamet method.
Wait, what is Mamet's method? Just stand there and say the line?
Mamet only went to the first. Okay, so I believe it's called philosophy. I can't remember what it's called. I'll have to look it up. It has an extreme name, but he only went to the first year of the Meisner program. He was not invited into the second year. So he never even got any. He never worked on character.
Okay.
And then after that, he was working, writing scripts for Joe Papp at the Public. But they do a thing which is the repetition exercise. And they do it a lot, but they call it something else. Something like cultural aesthetics or it's something aesthetics. Like philosophy.
But is it basically the repetition exercise?
It's basically the repetition exercise.
Okay.
Basically like, you're in a yellow room. I'm in a yellow room. You're in a yellow room.
Yeah.
And it's like, that's what Mamet's dialogue sounds like.
A lot of it.
A lot of it.
Yeah.
So,
and maybe he just likes the way that sounds.
Yeah, maybe, I don't know. But,
yeah,
he is, his advice is practical. Like if you're a writer, he, and you want to write scripts, he's like, read scripts, write scripts, stay out of school. Like he's really, good at breaking stuff down. But if you are looking for an author or playwright who is warm, you're not going to find that in David Mamet. In fact, I think Edmund might be the warmest script you get.
Are you kidding me?
No, it's not warm, but it's emotional. You know what I'm saying? Like it's about.
Oh, come on! You don't think that
Gary?
No, what was it called? American Buffalo. That's super.
Oh no,
emotional.
that's emotional.
That's
yeah,
like one of the
that's
most tear-jerky
that's
things
probably,
he's ever written.
Yeah. That's true. That's true.
No, and I've read a lot of his plays. They're like super tear-jerky. Like it's just whatever. I think what it is that like for some reason because Glenn Ross became so popular and so quotable and it's such a cold-hearted
Mhm.
like play and film, and it's dark in every way. I think that's just like what people associate in their minds with him. It's such a dominant work of his that sort of overshadows a lot of his other films and plays in people's minds. But no, he's a very sensitive writer. It's just that most people don't think about those words.
Yeah, I've always preferred his screenwriting when he doesn't direct. Like some of his scripts are like The Bear,
Right.
The Edge, rather. The Edge is a
Mhm.
brilliant movie, which Mamet wrote. Untouchables.
I saw that again. I saw that on Christmas with my friend Sam because he loves watching gangster movies, and he's like, "Let's watch that." And honestly, I don't know. That one doesn't do it for me.
Really?
No,
It doesn't do it for you?
No, because the good guys like win, and they're not that interesting. Like I want to see the gangster win in a gangster movie, or I want to see the gangster featured more prominently. I mean, I want to see more De Niro and less of this like Elliot Ness. Like,
well, he had to do that because it's a pickup of a '50s TV series about.
I know, man. It wouldn't have written it like that.
Yeah.
That's what I could tell.
Yeah.
But
he had.
But honestly, I think the greatest film that Mamet ever did. Is House of Games.
No, I think
The Spanish Prisoners #2.
That those are his.
His greatest movies of all time. So when you say like you prefer the films that he wrote but other people directed, those to me are some of the most underrated films. Period. And like I would love to do at some point. I'd love to do House of Games and The Spanish Prisoner.
What's the one where?
Because they're like you want a like really weird, interesting thriller type of film about like interesting lowlifes and scumbags. Those are really good.
What's where Newman is the alcoholic?
Oh, The Verdict.
The Verdict.
That's a great film. He didn't direct it.
He didn't direct it. No. That's my favorite Mamet script. Isn't. Yeah, The Verdict, and that's emotional.
My new favorite Mamet film though is has got to be Phil Spector.
Oh, I haven't seen that yet.
It's the greatest Al Pacino performance I've ever seen in my life, and that's not hyperbole.
Wow.
And we've been talking about Mamet so long, we lost the 3 people in the audience that have been watching us.
Oh, well, all right.
But yeah, so I don't know. I think he's probably one of my favorite directors of all time at this point. But I know how he's quirky. I know he's not for everybody. So yeah, I don't know. I mean, this caps off our trilogy.
That was this was our trilogy. I wanted to go into Parallax View and 3 Days of the Condor, but
yeah, we're gonna go back to our roots
of obscure films.
Our next episode and really dig deep into the weirdness.
Yeah.
What are we want to do?
Now, Judy, are you gonna be here next week? Can you do next week?
I can't. I don't think I can do next week.
Because I want
2 weeks from now.
I want to do I Spit on Your Grave.
Yeah, we want to
growing
up with
the original or the remake.
The original, and then there's a documentary.
And so it'll be like a double feature.
Called Growing Up with I Spit on Your Grave, which Ron Shetler, remember Ron Shetler? From Shetler Studios?
Oh, yeah.
Shetler or Shetland?
Shetler. He's all through it because Ron was he was the macho leader of the pack of rapists.
And, I don't think I've seen I Spit on Your Grave. I am aware of it, and I actually auditioned for the remake.
You did?
I did, but I was wondering if that was a period.
Remake it?
Yeah, they remade it.
Yeah, they remade it in what was it? Around 2010, I want to say, around that time. Yeah, I don't know if my agent ever sent my tape in, but I do remember my friend coming over, and I was like, "How do you audition and you're running through the woods and then you trip?" Like that was like one whole scene. I was like, I remember like being like, "How do we do this?" Like, and we're like, read. I'm like, I have to run and then fall and then get up and then look back and then scream and then run and then fall.
Did you ever have I remember this when people auditioned for soaps. when there were soaps in New York. Did you ever have like the kiss? You're in a
I-
close up and you're like, I love you, and then you have to like.
I never had to do that.
You ever do that? I watched Susie
No.
and Reiko do that a lot. Like they would do.
Yeah, no, I never did that one.
I guess that's what I look like, people. If you like, that really did it for you. You know, I'm single. So
No, I think different actors, like I remember having a friend, we're talking a lot about acting tonight, but I had a friend who was like, she got called for a lot of commercials and she just had really great like facial structure and a great mouth. So she used to get like all these auditions for like gum or like food. So it's all about like the load and the gum load and like the like how you position your tongue and your lips for like the bite to the swallow. Like there was a whole method of
well, there's a whole method
of mouth movement for commercials. And I was like, yeah, no, I don't. I just get like prostitutes and crazy.
It's much
people.
more. It's better.
They want me running through the woods and falling.
Falling, yeah.
That's what I get.
One time I went in for a commercial, and they gave me a cold Burger King burger, and they said, you know, you bite into it, and really discover it, and you like it, and you say the line. So I said the line, and then when I was done, they said, okay, you throw the burger away. So the garbage was just full of burgers, cold, like day-old Burger King burgers with one bite taken out of them, just sky high. Just like every actor in New York was like taking a bite of a cold burger, and then they would throw, you know. But yeah, they asked me if I was vegetarian, and I said no, and they said, okay, we sign you up for this.
It's not real meat anyway.
It's not real meat anyway. No, of course not. It's what is it?
This is what?
A Burger King burger.
With meat.
It's
like beef mixed with textured soy protein and other stuff.
Krill and fetuses and stem cells.
I haven't eaten that. I haven't gone near that in the longest time. So
I can't remember the last time I had a fast food burger.
I had a fast food burger when I was pregnant.
Did you?
I don't know why. I was pregnant with my son, and I just was like, oh my God, I've never wanted like McDonald's and Burger King so much. I have no idea why.
I mean, every time I'm at the gas station, like a rest stop on the highway, and there's like a McDonald's, like, yeah, I would love a double quarter pounder with cheese with bacon. I can't eat that though. Like, I mean, it's like that food is designed for like the little baby inside of everybody. It's mushy, it's salty, and it's like fatty and sweet.
Yeah, I don't know. The thought of it now, like it grosses me out. But
ketchup and everything.
And
what?
No, I'm saying if I think about it now, like I was driving past Burger King yesterday, and I remember looking at it, and I was like, it looks so sad. I don't know. And then I remembered, like, but those burgers were really good when I was pregnant.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, pregnant food.
Well, too bad I can't get pregnant and have some craving for a double.
Maybe one day, if the technology is right, you could do that. Oh, speaking of men who wanted to get pregnant, I remember in the 80s, Dustin Hoffman saying that he really, if there was ever an opportunity for a man to have the experience of carrying a baby, he would like to volunteer to be the first one.
Weirdo.
I mean, it's definitely interesting, but
yeah,
I wanted to be a mermaid, so.
You want to be a mermaid?
I wanted to be a mermaid for like years, between the ages of like 5 and 10.
Where do mermaids deliver their babies from?
I think mermaids lay eggs.
They lay eggs.
They probably lay eggs.
Where do they pee and poop?
They probably have a cloaca that we don't see, like a fish.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, my daughter's asked to be a mermaid too, and I'm like, I really truly know how you feel. I really do, because I wanted to be a mermaid too. At least now they actually have swim tails, so she has one.
Oh yeah, they have developed the swim tail technology to a level that is insane.
Yeah,
it's freaky. Have you seen these swim tails? Oh man.
Yeah.
No, I suffered as a child. They were not.
Yeah, I just had to use my imagination.
You had to use your imagination, not anymore, man.
Yeah, I just wanted to be Daryl Hannah, get in a bathtub and turn into a fish, and then devour a lobster. That's not an obscure film, right?
What?
Splash.
Splash is not an obscure film, but here's the thing: Daryl Hannah was a vegetarian, so they had to fill that lobster up with mashed potatoes.
Oh,
Yeah.
interesting fun fact.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
I guess, sort of. I mean, with the right angle, you can make that work.
Well, yeah. I mean, she just has a mouthful of white stuff, right?
Right. The texture looks very different than lobster.
I'm sure that if
They
it's
figured out how to do
cold
it,
mashed
yeah.
potatoes and
So what are we doing next week, Seth?
Well,
We're saving the Spit on Your Grave.
I Spit on Your Grave. Yeah. So
We could do that one in 2 weeks because that'll give me, if we
2
want to
weeks,
cover the
okay.
documentary and a film, that gives me enough time.
Cool. Why don't we do
Parallax View?
let's do 3 days of the Condor.
Okay, fine.
Let's do 3 days of the Condor.
Sounds good.
Going back to the lovely, strong, beautiful. Did I say strong? Faye Dunaway and Robert Redford as
Faye Dunaway's. I took Faye Dunaway's food order in Los Angeles when I was living there.
She said, "You better get it right. You better get that right." And I like my fries crispy.
No, she was like, no.
I like my fries crispy.
No, it was in West LA at this like Mediterranean, like kind of whatever cheesy like cafe. And I'm taking the food order over the phone. It's like this really breathy, "Hi, I'd like to place an order." I'm exaggerating. She doesn't do it that much, but she still sounds the same. Like she still has that Hollywood accent, that whatever. What do they call that?
The mid-Atlantic speech.
The mid-Atlantic speech thing. And she's like, "I'd like to order this, and I'd like to order that." And I was like, "Okay, can I get a name, please?" And I'm like, Faye Dunaway. I was like, "Oh, okay, Faye Dunaway. My boy will come and pick it up."
My boy.
I don't remember if she said that or if like it was just like this young guy who came to pick it up, and I just put that in. I added that in, but yeah. So
I say that when I order food, I go, "This is Seth, Michael May, and my boy will be over to get it," and then I shave real close, and I run down, and I go, "Oh, Mr. May wants his food."
Did you put the extra mayonnaise in the bag?
Did you make sure to not put the whipped cream on the rice pudding? Because he likes it in a small container. He likes to put it on himself.
Exactly.
Otherwise, that Mr. May, he's gonna go crazy.
All right, so tell us about this film that you're making us watch this week.
So 3 Days of the Condor is about a guy who works in intelligence. He is not a field craft spy. But then one day when he's out to lunch, everybody in his office is terminated. And he has to find out what the heck went on and why. And those are the 3 days of the Condor.
Terminated meaning?
Someone comes in.
Oh, like murdered.
Murdered, yeah.
So like everybody in his particular office within his department. But not the whole department.
No, I think, like he works in a department which is like on top of a business, like
sort of
spies.
hidden away. Okay.
Yeah, like spies do. And
this is a national spy, or
he works for some kind of like the company, or like NSA kind of not official intelligence, if I remember correctly. So it's fun times. It's a great movie. Max von Sydow is in it.
What is this, an American film?
It's an American film, yeah. Oh. And it's post-Kennedy assassination, pre-70s maybe, I think. It's definitely young Robert Redford, young Faye Dunaway,
and this is obscure.
I think it's an obscure film.
It did really well in the box office.
It
was a big hit.
Well, look, it follows.
It's Dino De Laurentiis. I guess this is the fourth installment.
It's the fourth installment. Okay. That's what. All right, we don't have to do this. We can do the stuff. You want to do the
Yeah,
stuff?
let's do this. We've had too much
Okay,
political
you know what?
intrigue.
Okay,
give
let's
it a
do.
rest.
Would you rather do the stuff or Q Winged Serpent?
I don't know either film, so you're gonna have to sell them to me.
Okay, so the stuff is about a delicious frozen dessert, which turns out to be an organism, which turns people into more of itself from the inside out. Q
Paul
Winged
Sorvino.
with Paul Sorvino. Q Winged Serpent is about
So the first one's like a cheesy horror movie.
yes, they're both cheesy horror movies. The second one, Q Winged Serpent, is about a winged serpent that nests in the Chrysler Building and flies around New York City.
Does it actually take place in the Chrysler Building?
Yes.
Good, then I want to see that.
Okay, so we're gonna
Because
do, we're gonna do Q Winged Serpent, which I believe Dennis Cunningham of Channel 2 News gave a 3 out of 10 to.
Great.
And I stayed up late at night because I was intrigued. I wanted finally there to be a movie about a flying reptile monster. And
What year did this come out?
this has got to be
82.
80.
Oh,
Yeah,
perfect.
82.
The year I was born.
Yep. And yeah, so we'll do
Okay, so
Q
next
Wing-
week we're doing
Q
Winged
Winged Serpent.
And
it's fun. It's a fun movie.
yeah, thanks for tuning in.
All right.
Come back next week and join us.
Join
Click the
us.
link if you want to join the discussion.
Yep.
Peace.
Peace. Bye.